Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of this EuroPCR for having given me the opportunity to be here again. I have no conflict of interest. My patient is actually a 64 years old male. He is hypertensive, diabetic. Actually, he is my teacher and he was a professor of obstetrics and gynecology working in the same university where I'm working. He had been having on and off dyspnea for quite some time. And recently the dyspnea had worsened, so his cath was done by one of my other colleague, which showed that a high OM had a very significant tight lesion. And then there was a lesion in the LAD, which was a sort of a borderline lesion. When this cath was done, I was not in station. He waited actually for me to come back to do the procedure. When they showed me the picture, my plan was first to do an OM branch lesion which was critical, then a LAD which was a sort of a borderline lesion to do an FFR if required to go ahead and do the stenting. This is what I explained to my teacher, and then I said, okay, we'll go ahead and do the procedure. So accordingly, the OM branch was crossed with a BMW wire. It was pre-dilated and stented with a 3x15 alpine stent. So far so good. Then the LAD wire was crossed, ballooned it, stented it. So procedure was over. I went and sat in the adjacent room. Patient was shifted to the ward. After 5 minutes, my senior technician comes and tells me, sir, the OM stent is missing. So this was the OM stent which was there earlier when we had deployed, and suddenly the OM stent after the LAD stent had come was missing. So what could have gone wrong? Actually, after successfully doing the OM branch, I was planning to do an FFR to the LAD. My professor told me, what if the result of FFR is negative, what are you going to do? If it is negative, we will treat you medically. He said, what will be the natural course of that lesion, which if it is there, so it might progress you and you might require an intervention at a later date. Why to go for later? You can do as well now only when you are thinking that there is a lesion there. Then I said, okay, I will do the LAD lesion. I did not do the FFR. So first cross the wire and ballooned it. While the balloon was being removed, accidentally the wire had come out. Then I had to recross the wire. When recrossing it, the wire went through the proximal strut of the OM branch, what I had treated. Then we had taken a New York the alpine stent, and that stent could easily get in through the proximal strut. But unfortunately, that stent, or luckily for me, it was not going forward, or it was, when I tried to manipulate it back, I was not able to get it back also. So I was thinking that probably there is some problem with the wire, or it might have gone subintimally. So I deep engaged it, or calcium might be holding it, and tried to push it further inside. It was not going in. Then I said, oh, let me take it out. It was not coming out also. So I had to deep engage the guide, and later forcefully I had removed the wire as well as the stent, and I had come out with the whole system. Later I had gone and stented the LAD. This is what exactly had happened. The guide was engaged, and second time when I crossed it, it had gone through the proximal strut of the stent, and the stent was brought. It did go to the proximal part of the LAD, but it was further not progressing. When I tried to remove it, it was not coming out also. I had to use literally the deep engage the guide, use the pressure, and it had come out. I had thought that it was some problem. Because it was my professor, I did not want to make it an issue on the table. So I quickly crossed another wire and then stented it and came out. I thought that my job is done and everything was over. But this is what had happened. The stent had come out. Then later I told this one, the stent has moved a little bit. I want to place another stent. Brought him back and stented the proximal OM branch stent. And this was the final result. Then when I reviewed the literature, I found that 2 cases of these stents which have been already deployed have been removed. One was accidentally while doing a rota stenting, and other one was like the case what we have done in our case, like this one. So accidental explantation of a diploid stent is a very rare complication that can occur in the cath lab. And the message that what I want to give is, like, if you have got an ostial proximal lesion and the distal lesion, it is always better that you treat the distal lesion first and then treat the proximal ostial lesion. But here in our case, the distal lesion was a borderline. We were thinking of doing an FA first day and let us treat the critical lesion. Probably in this case, if we would have made a decision upfront only that whether we are going to stent LAD or not, we would have been successful in avoiding this problem. Thank you very much.
Yes, trying to position an ostial stent is always complicated, and if you're going to the secondary branch, and then you go back to the main LAD, you have the possibility to have a complication like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may have a patient treated before this index procedure with an ostial stent on a branch, and you have to treat the main branch, and you don't know that this stent is protruding. And it's very frequent that this stent is protruding from the branch to the main branch, and you cross the strut of the stent, and then you face the same difficulties in advancing a new stent in the main branch. In this situation, always, especially when you inherit from a previous procedure an ostial stent on the side branch, better to do a stent boost or stent viz and sometimes it's very helpful, and it shows you very clearly that your wire is crossing the strut of the ostial branch.
I agree. Like, actually here in this case, we never thought that I have crossed through the strut.
Yeah.
I had thought that I had just gone into the main vessel, and that stent was placed almost there. Maybe the slight loop what we give onto the wire that just went through entered through the proximal strut of the stent what it was there.